All right, we got Rachel. Do you remember that Rachel Martin? Do you remember that show from like the 90s? Was like Martin. The
No.
dude that did, it was like the dude that was in Bad Boys with Will Smith. Martin Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
He
Yeah,
had, he
yeah.
had a comedy show and it was like Martin. It's like, and so when I was thinking about talking to you today, I was thinking about Martin and I thought that'd be funny, but
I don't know it, but you know what I was thinking about when I was thinking about talking with you? Hey Mitch, and I keep thinking of the Hunger Games. Um, and Hey Mitch, he was like one of the, I forget what his role was, but he was a character.
yeah.
DC, you don't know that one, so
I know Hunger Games. I don't know. I've only watched like the original one. I haven't watched like I think there's like five of them now or something.
yeah. Well, you don't need to. You can just watch the news now.
Okay. So, anyways, this is the Rooted Conversations podcast with Mitch Webb. I've got Rachel Martin. She is my buddy, good friend. We've met through our SPT time with Irene. And I always tell her that if we had met several years before, we'd be doing festivals and raves and all the things together.
That is so true.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
just want to get her on and pick her brain and catch up with her and let you guys join along for the process. So, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the show and tell us what you've been up to, what's going on. Introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Mitch. I'm so glad we finally are making this happen. We had a little tech difficulties. So Mitch and I were just hanging out until those cleared. So I think that's probably why at least I'm
Tech
a little giddy.
difficulties and like three or four cancellations.
Yes, yes. Prior to that, three or four cancellations.
Timing is everything.
And how cool is it that we can trust the process and that and like not freak out about it? Or for me anyway, that's a new thing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, a little bit about myself. Like Mitch said, we met in our SPT training through Irene, which was amazing. And we definitely would have been party buddies once upon a time. Uh, had a lot of fun in that training. And my background is I'm in recovery. So I have experience with addiction and which I just see as nervous system dysregulation. And I think we'll probably talk some more about that. Um, and I grew up in, I had early adversity. So I have a high ACEs score. I experienced chronic illness. I had a rare cancer diagnosis in 2019. Went through a lot around that. And I've talked about that on Irene's podcast or Irene's YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to find me there, you can learn more about that. And that's ultimately what brought me to nervous system work and to Irene and to really getting to the root of all this insanity and chaos and discomfort in my body and in my life and in my relationships. And since 2020, I did Smart Body, Smart Mind in 2020. I have been on this journey of coming into who I am, discovering my own, like my actual window of tolerance into how
Yeah.
teeny, teeny, tiny
Yeah.
it actually is. Um, and having just more acceptance for myself and finding ways to be of service in this world of healing in the most authentic way possible and the
Mhm.
most way like with the most integrity as possible, which is something I love about Irene's work is she is all about the integrity. She's the
Absolutely.
real deal.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love a good pain to purpose story. You know, that I feel like that's a line that I got from a guy that I worked with years ago. And I think it just makes so much sense. You know, I don't know that I ever knew what I wanted to do with my life. You know, like we go to college and it's like, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm just trying to have a good time. And maybe that's to avoid, numb, figure out all the pain that I was in. Like you said, you know, my body was on fire. And then when we start to find solutions to that and we start to heal and get better, and that window of tolerance is growing, and you know, we have capacity to share that. That's where our, you know, call it your purpose, but it's just it feels so good to share that information.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I- Something you said, I can't remember the exact words, but I remember the thought that came to me is that like finding our purpose in there, to me, like finding our it's you can't see my hands, but like this. It's
Hmm.
like this alignment, this center, this where my pelvis is connected to my heart, everything, like I'm open, my system's relaxed, I'm not in fight or flight. It becomes clear, what am I meant to do here and how do I serve here? How the impulse, the ability to follow one's impulse, this is my experience anyway, is like clearer and I have more trust to do it without trying to like, oh, but what if and da 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 da, what about this? What about that? I need to manage it. Da, 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 da. What will other people think? Yada yada yada. Like that's one of the gifts that this work has given me.
Hmm.
And I mean, I I was sitting in therapy like a couple weeks ago and I was just like melting, like, oh my gosh, feeling like I'm I've I haven't done anything. Like this isn't working. And she's like, like come back to that place. Like
Hmm.
so I still have little meltdowns. I still have little freakouts. Like there's Irene talks about us like that realization of like, oh, there's so much in there. And it's the more you know, the less you realize you know. This it was like one of those moments. So I'm not here to say like I've reached any level of perfection or mastery. I think just rooting more into reality, which, you said going to college, what do you want to do? I don't know. I just want to feel good. So I don't have to feel all the shit
Yes.
that I grew up with and that I've been avoiding, that I don't know how to process, that I don't know how to be with, that I was never given an attuned caregiver to show me the way to find that I'm okay. So I'm just gonna party. I'm gonna chase, for me, men, maybe you girls, like I'm gonna do all this stuff on the outside to try and create some kind of like feeling of okayness,
Safety. We didn't learn
safety.
safety. And so we we create all this armor through conditioning and we control and I don't know, protect ourselves by taking all these trauma responses on um, that ultimately we think is us, like people pleasing and perfection and learning how to manage and how we feel. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense that you would say, I'm learning these things and moving through them, and I'm not perfect and I'm not the expert. It sounds like you're a human that's healing, and I think that's beautiful. And I think that's why I like to do the podcast. It's like, tell us about that. What does that mean to you? And let's have conversation about it. Let's do what I do with 90% of my clients is just normalize what's going on. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. We feel like we're a needle in the haystack, and we've got to be the one holding it all together, making our body function the way that we think is good or bad or whatever that means. And yeah, ultimately seeing it's this work is really the more I learn, the more simple it gets and the
Hmm.
more nuanced it gets. And so it's not simple. Um, but we're learning all the way through it, and I think that's something Irene taught me too, is making this a lifestyle and constant improvement, and it becomes you when it's baked in. Like I have really set down a lot of the healing practices that I'm doing on a daily basis. I will say that out loud, and I'm only going to therapy, yet my nervous system is wired to do the things that we have learned, to be more in my body, to allow and accept the sensations and emotions, let them move through, and to learn to trust, and instead of performing and disconnecting from whatever's coming up or shaming or blaming that, And it's just getting back to being human instead of some conditioned, armored up,
Yep.
wounded version of ourselves that is um, what society is going through right now. And I think the answer is this work. So yeah, man.
Okay. Yeah, well said, Mitch. I agree that the answer is in this work. And like I say, like, I came here to be a whole fucking human,
Mhm.
right? Like, and that includes accepting those parts of myself that are, I've tried to push away, that I was told aren't good. And that's where that's where the perfectionism and the control comes in, right? Because there's some kind of toxic shame.
Mhm.
Probably, right? There's
Yeah, of
something that
course.
I don't want people to see that I've pushed away. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm qualified. I'm imposter syndrome. I don't know enough to do this thing, right? And like, even if you look at my face right now, it's like freeze,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, I can't, I don't know how to act. So I'm going to people please and
Mhm.
I'm going to perform and I'm going to do the things that I think you want me to do and be. And I spent so much of my life doing that. And then, the work for me didn't start with the nervous system and that embodied piece, but it did start with more personal development, belief work, and then I got frustrated. This is before my illness and before discovering the nervous system and Irene. And I got frustrated because I could understand why. I talked about shit in therapy for so many years. I couldn't I knew the stories, I knew the narrative, I knew I had these beliefs. People say, oh, well, just you need some affirmations, it's so easy. You just need to love yourself.
Podcast over. Do affirmations.
Yeah, okay. You just need to love yourself more. Yeah, well, I didn't
What does
learn
that mean?
right. I don't know that I knew how to feel love in my body.
Mm,
Love to me that I experienced growing up was not healthy,
mm.
right? I wasn't modeled that, and I'm reading this book right now, Mother Hunger. I'm actually leading a little book study on it,
Nice.
and it's so good. It's called How Adult Daughters Can Understand and Heal from Lost Nurturance, Protection, and Guidance.
Mm,
And she says early on in the book, like, you didn't, something like, you didn't learn how to not love your mother. You learned to not love yourself by s- by s- by maintaining trying to keep that attachment to your mother kind of thing. And
yeah,
that
yeah,
really
yeah.
resonated for me.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna disconnect from me to stay connected to you.
exactly. I'm going to sacrifice my authenticity for belonging.
Mhm.
And so I was going somewhere with that.
As mom and not loving ourselves,
Yeah.
not learning. It's not
Uh,
that you didn't love your mom. It's
oh, becoming a whole human.
there you
Right. So being able to accept those parts that feel shameful and like bring it out into the light, right? Learning to have some acceptance for those parts of myself, specifically with recovering from addiction.
go. Mhm.
And there's a part of me that doesn't love the word
I don't
addiction.
like it either. Yeah.
Recovering from like dysfunctional relationship with substances, with sex and love relationships, and currently I'm working on my relationship with food, which I think ties to my really, really early mother stuff. But learning to accept, and this gets to what we were kind of talking about earlier, that there's no shame in having done those things.
Hmm.
There's no shame in the addiction. So many people shame the addict,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, they shouldn't do that. But the addiction is brilliant.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree
It's
with that.
it's brilliant. It's even in the big book, it says our liquor was but a
And
solution.
what is the big book? You named that
Oh,
earlier.
okay. All right. This is the big book. It's
It is a big book.
blue. You can see it. Yeah, this includes all the stories. So this is like the big, big book.
Yeah.
And in there's a portion of it. This is like the Bible for like
Mhm.
AA. And
Okay.
a lot of 12-step programs refer to the big book. And it's a really amazing program. It's helped a lot of people, helped my dad. That's how I kind of like I knew about 12 steps before I got into it myself. And even when I was doing the nervous system work, and this is when my dad was still alive, I visited him and I went to some meetings with him and I said, Dad, I don't know if I have the alcohol problem, but I've got the thinking disease. Because they'll say it's not a drinking disease, it's a thinking disease, right? Because the liquor
Explain
was
that.
but
I
a
want to hear that. Tell me that.
okay. So this is what I'm talking about. It's a thinking disease, not a drinking disease, because it's it's not about the alcohol. So this section here, I'll read it. This is from page 64 in the big book, the section called How It Works. And it says our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. And so it goes on to talk about what step 4 is, but it's basically like taking a personal inventory of our life. Look, we start by looking at our resentments. What do we resent? Who do we resent in the world? And then seeing where in that we've been selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, and fearful. So what nervous system state does that map onto? Selfish,
Shame. Yeah.
self-seeking.
Hmm.
Well, it could be driven by shame,
Mhm.
fearful, right? What happens when we're afraid? Sympathetic,
Yeah.
sympathetic activation or
Collapse, maybe.
collapse.
Yeah.
But the sympathetic
Happens
activation
first.
comes first, right? So it's like looking at where we're fear driven, seeing the thoughts that are and behaviors that are associated with that, and then beginning to dismantle it. And so it's a thinking disease. That the all those things happening under the surface that we may not be conscious of, we're going to a drink to avoid all that shit, right? Or we're going to a drug, or we're going to a relationship, or we're going to gamble, or we're going to compulsively spend our money, like
Yeah.
all of that. So that's it's a thinking disease, and then underneath that thinking, well, how did the thinking become come to be?
Because
How
an escape, the thinking is an escape from what feels what we got in the body.
yeah, yeah. Well, this happened to me, and now I'm going to create a narrative around it. Have you
Because that
heard?
if I can see it, it's not as uncertain. I can control it potentially, and then I can feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to. I have this thought too of like the thinking without the embodiment. It feels like there could be a disconnection there too, and I want to explore that. I want to go back to that. I want to put a bookmark in that, build some
Okay.
anticipation, and then
Okay.
bring it back to this thing that we were talking about before off air. So um, last week, my aunt, who's in recovery as well, um, is really interested in this work, and I love it. And she asked me, she sent me this article. She's like, "What do you think about this?" And it was basically, it was the title of it was "Alcohol is not the problem," and it goes on to say that it's not. Yeah, of course, alcohol is not the problem. It's the response, like you said, very intelligently, being a resource. Thank God we had that in the suffering that we were in. And what it really is the deeper attachment wounds, the dysregulation, the self hatred, whatever that may be. And society is not ready to deal with the deeper wounds because that would take seeing all the stuff, right? It's kind of like we're in this dark room and we're not willing to go in there, or we have this dark room of ourself. We're not ready to go into the basement, and so we're gonna shame the behavior and the substance that really is a resource. So when you hear alcohol is the, or any behavior for that matter is the problem, like where's your mind go?
Well, right to that passage, right? Like our liquor is but a symptom. It's a symptom of the underlying thing, that wanting to avoid ourselves, the thing we can't look at. And
Mm.
it's not, it's easy to look at those things because alcohol and drugs, especially hard drugs, like they're so rampant. They create a lot more chaos and they're looked down upon. But this is just a pattern, right? It's just a pattern. Some people play out this pattern with their phone screen.
Yeah.
Some people play out this pattern with marijuana, which is peace, love, hippie drug, right?
Mhm.
Some people play out this pattern with their money, and we just call them billionaires and we think they're great,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah, for
Or
sure.
some people play it out with power, right? Some people play it out with work. They're workaholics. And we think they're just really great employees and they must be doing well because they've built empires, right? But then they're still miserable inside because they haven't looked within, taken inventory in whatever way, and begun to look at, hey, what happened to you? And this is where even I think 12 steps, like there's so many different programs and the like AA is great, but then people end up getting stagnant there because they've looked at it up here, right? And maybe haven't looked at it here,
When you say here, like in the body.
like in the body. And also AA focuses more on what did you do? Where's your part? What was your responsibility? And it can become shaming people, right? So it's like, oh, it's me. I'm the broken one. I'm the bad one. I'm never going to be good enough. Well, for people like that, there's another program called Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families.
Okay, I've heard of that a little bit. I
And once
don't
you
know
get
a whole
in,
lot about it.
so it's a good program and it helps get more to that relational and generational trauma.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not 100% clear, but I know that John Bradshaw, who wrote Healing the Shame That Binds You, had some association with
Mhm.
the ACA program. And so that, like, okay, now we're getting down to shame and shame, if we can look at shame and allow ourselves to be aware of
Mhm.
our body while we're examining this work, then we can really start to heal because
Mhm.
it takes the right like top down and the bottom up approach and where they meet to integrate and and sort of alchemize, dissolve, and expand, and then create new ways of relating. Does
It
that?
sounds like it's really easy to get into, so to create this awareness of our coping mechanisms and where that's coming from, and then go into an identity of I am bad, like a shame-based identity because of the thing that we use to manage all of that. And is that's kind of what the more the parental thing that you just mentioned. It sounds like adult children of emotionally immature parents,
Yeah.
but
That
similar. Probably close, maybe. But is that kind of what's going? Do you see like that shame identity of this substance thing that I'm using instead of going into is that two things there?
I think I think it can be a part of the process.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's so critical to be able to see that. But I think that's kind of what that article was eliminating is like, hey, alcohol is not the problem. Like we were talking about off air. I can see myself where I've been addicted to health related stuff. And first that was exercise, and then that was different diets, and maybe for sure biohacking, and then um like the Joe Dispenza quantum physics type of thing where I'm gonna just meditate for 4 hours a day, you know?
Some lovely dissociation.
Yeah, dude. And I'm gonna learn fasting. Fasting taught me how to really disconnect from my body. Like I'm gonna take this uncomfortable thing and it's gonna be good for me if I just keep
Mhm.
going with it. When the body's saying, no, dude. And
Mhm.
so but that's what trauma is, where we learn to not listen, disconnect. We push away our natural impulse, and we're fixated on the outside for love and attention and validation. And how do I do this thing? And then we get into the fixing and figuring out, and then we're stuck. And it's like we have to rebuild this awareness to even learn what is our body telling us.
Mm-hmm. Which is the brilliance of smart body, smart minds, and what Irene's created there, a pathway to beginning to notice and bring attention and intention. And it's that really basic work that's so potent that we need before we can do the deeper things,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I like that you brought up being addicted to other things, to these behaviors. And what can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What would you say you were, um, what did you want to receive from those things?
I wanted to feel good. I wanted to like, and I think about alcohol too, because I certainly had, lots of partying back in the day, and I just don't like hangovers, and so that's where I didn't like that as much. But I remember specifically when I had my like iceberg moment, I call that, when the Band-Aid rips off, the mm, all the activation that's underneath the freeze comes out, and we get to experience that. And I'm running doctor to doctor, going, what is this feeling that I have? And the doctor writes down, you have anxiety. And I remember, what is that? I don't even know what that means. And so from there, I think I was I saw like a therapist on campus, and he was asking me, I was in a fraternity. I was the social chair of my fraternity. So I was the one in charge of party throwing, and was really good at that. But like, I remember talking to him and him asking me, like, how many beers do you drink in a night? I'm like, I don't know, like a case of beer. What do you mean? Like 24 beers or something like that, 12 beers. And I do remember too, before going, I was a social chair. I was very social. I thought I was, until I learned when I didn't have that I was kind of like Will Ferrell with, on Talladega Nights, where he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands, because because I would have like, we would, shotgun beers or whatever, and then my anxiety would be better, and then I could be in connection. And so eventually I could be what I felt like was myself, but I felt more free. I was free of the activation and the sensation in my body that made me feel like my body was on fire. And so as I um, got more into the health world, I was like, man, I really don't like these hangovers, and so I started backing off of that, and I would only do it on the weekends, and then I would notice, oh, I feel like crap on Monday and Tuesday. Why is that? Well, now let me substitute that for hot yoga and CrossFit, and now let's find restrictive diets. And it's like, and something you said before we got on, it's like, you said hopping drug to drug to see, what does my system need? Does it need an upper? Does it need a downer? And mine was, is this, the more I restrict my diet, is that going to be where I don't have this anxiety? I was always trying to get rid of that. And even in therapy, the first time I went, Mitch, why are you here? I want to get rid of anxiety. And it's like, well, that shit ain't gonna work here. It's actually a good thing. It's our body. It's telling me this isn't it. It's telling me you need to heal. And it just took me a long freaking time to find this work.
Hmm.
And I think for me, that was probably good, because I needed that slow journey of, I don't know, like, to learn, is because I was very different. I was very closed-minded, and all the stereotypical jock, macho, that kind of stuff. I still definitely am a bro, but like, I'm multifaceted, and I accept myself in so many different ways, and um, that's been so much of what's helped me here recently, is just accepting and allowing. But yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Accepting and allowing. I mean, that is the way. And what I heard, and really like what underneath all of that, what you were looking for was okayness. I'm not broken, right? I'm okay. I'm safe.
Hmm.
And like, what is it that is going to fix that for me? And like, I'm just going to do whatever I can to
Yeah,
get there. And
yeah.
that's really like at the root of addiction. It will say like looking for something to fill the God-sized hole, because the 12-step program is very spiritual but not religious. Big focus on a higher power, which
Mm.
is really like being able to relax into that parasympathetic, open state of being relaxed and engaged. So having enough of that ventral vagal online to be outside of the narrative of who you think you are and the suffering that we've experienced.
Hmm.
Um, I've recently started volunteering with hospice.
Nice.
So rewarding. And as part of the training for this, they're doing a special thing this year. And so last weekend, I did a weekend on how to understand spiritual suffering. Very really relevant to end of life care and so relevant to this work that we do. Because I mean, that's the nature of trauma is that we're stuck in some kind of suffering that's all tied up you know, in our nervous system
Hmm.
and really closely related to the stories I tell myself about the world.
Hmm.
Um, are you familiar with Deb Dana and
Mm-mm.
her work with like she has some worksheets that use like ladders that help you see like where your glimmers are and how you move up through the different states in the polyvagal theory. But there's something that she says that I really like that story indicates state.
Indicates what?
Story indicates state.
Okay, so if I explain that then.
So if I'm telling a story that dude, this world's so fucking crazy right now. Like, can you believe that? Like, you can't even walk outside. You might get shot. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, our cities aren't safe and we live under a dictatorship and this man is so dangerous and evil and I don't know what's gonna happen and I fear for my life and I need to tell everyone about it that they better be careful and they better stay away. What state?
Hypervigilance.
What's going on there, right? Like,
Yeah.
holy activation, Batman, right? But if my story is, ooh, there is a lot of stuff happening around me, and I feel for the world, and there are a lot of people hurting, and there's still beauty. Like I saw the sunrise this morning
Mhm.
and the sunset last night, and so, the earth is still turning, and I got to connect with my friend Mitch today, and it was really awesome, and I feel really, really good about that. And I took my dog on a walk, and I nourished my body, and I still really like love the world.
It's not
And
black or white. It's holding multiple truths at one time.
yeah, there's more spaciousness, right? Like it's
Mhm.
more indicative of a nervous system that is open and curious. And
Mhm.
what happens when we're activated, we lose, like you talked about this earlier. I can't remember if we were recording yet, but when you were talking about pot, right? Like you gain this space to be curious about your beliefs and your actions and your compulsions.
Mhm.
And when we're in an activated state, it's like they call it blind rage for a reason because you can't see anything else. Even the eyes narrow. Um, it's curiosity goes offline.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's like we're so fixated on the pain.
uh-huh,
It's the thing that is so loud that there's no we got blinders on and we're tunnel vision.
uh-huh.
And so then we find something that takes the pain away temporarily, and it's like, oh my God, I found the thing. Can I be on this all the time forever?
Yeah, that for addiction, yeah. Or we find the thing that we think is causing the pain. Right. Oh, it must be how I'm eating. It must be how
Oh
I'm eating
yeah.
that's causing the pain. So if I fast and I eat right and I fix that, then the pain will go away. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to talk about this on a large scale of the world. Well, if the government is the problem, whichever part of the government you don't like,
Mhm.
whichever side, if that is the problem, then if they get fixed, my pain will go away.
Yeah,
But
it's the fixing and figuring out stuff, and yeah,
it
that was.
doesn't it doesn't work that way because the pain's here.
Mhm. Well, it tells us that there's a constant threat that I can't get away from, and that was me with the anxiety. And I did it so long and I exhausted myself trying everything that I possibly could that then my body went into collapse and you have that fatigue. And at that point, that's when I was like, okay, I didn't know about acceptance and allowing. it's like my therapist was talking to me a couple, recently about being versus doing. And I'm like, how do you do that? What do you mean?
How do you do being?
Yeah. Does that mean I'm gonna like, oh, I do just need to meditate all the time? Is that what you're saying?
Uh, Not
Or
quite the
I'll do my
same.
affirmations and I'll meditate and I'll make sure I look at the sun every morning and eat this amount of food and work out every day and I'll be perfect, right?
Yeah, yeah. That, oh gosh, I read some other book and it was some AA literature. But anyway, I don't think it's actually conference approved, which doesn't matter. But it was talking about that illusion that we will be fixed.
I
So
know.
when we're doing anything to be fixed, it's a like a sorry, kind of like a we're not allowing and accepting.
Hmm.
It
And
comes
it's
based on
it's
that thing
when
that we're
we can
broken.
allow, and that's the thing that big breakthrough for me was, okay, if fixing and figuring out is survival, when we bring in more safety and regulation, it's more safety and trust.
Hmm.
Meaning, I can it doesn't and it takes the good and the bad out of it. And it's like, no, I can meet myself at whatever decision I make, and I can give myself grace to pivot and to have that, oh, that's more information. And I've been trying to uncouple the good and the bad judgment from just this is what is. And this is the decision I've made. How do I want to meet myself here? Because before it was I found this new thing. I've been trying to figure it out, and this thing is going to fix me, and it does for about a week, and then shaming again. It's just a cycle. We stay in that pain, figure out, resolve, shame, back in the cycle. And so
Hmm.
for me, what I learned to do, what I do with my clients a lot now is mapping the compulsions. So when I have uncomfortableness, let's just pain, whatever you want to suffering, what do I do? And it was hard because some of these things are things that I love to do. And I was also telling myself I can't do the things that I love until I'm perfect. And so I had to get clear on what are my values. I had to kind of put things on a schedule for a period of time and make it to where I create new opportunities to observe, to experience things differently. And that gave me new information. And through the repetition of meeting myself at whatever I did and the symptoms that would come up from that, you mean I'm going to stop this thing that I've been doing that's been helping for so long, whether it's eating, working out, pot, whatever. If I can, I'm going to put that down. Well, yeah, my system, we've been doing this for a long time. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to learn to sit in this fire and learn it's not going to burn me. And it's like, oh, I might make sleep was a big thing for me. So maybe I do have dysregulation and I don't sleep for 2 or 3 nights. But you know what? If I stay with that, that good night of sleep comes. Now I've got more capacity to be with, and I can see that here's this choice and here's this. And if I make this choice, I can be with that and I can be with this. And neither of these make me wrong, but what feels good, and it's like a question I was going to ask you is kind of like, it's the difference between compulsion and impulse, like true bodily wisdom.
What is that a question?
Well, I'm saying that, and yeah, I can make that a question. I mean, what do you think about that? Like the
Oh,
difference between,
yeah, I mean, I think it can be really hard to tell when we're
yes.
first starting out because we just don't know what we don't know, right? Like the compulsion is so tied into our identity and who we are and how we know how to be, and it's there for a reason because it's covering up that life force energy that wants to come up, which is all anxiety is, right? And so like that saying, like you're forged in the fire, like, hey, that's pretty dang true. And impulse, um, to me is that more like it's something that comes up and it's the body's organic intelligence and it's moving us towards something that is meant for us and is maybe good for us, is maybe right. I'm thinking of Irene's example of you're driving on the road and you get an impulse to maybe go a different way because there's an accident, or you get
into
an impulse
oncoming
to
traffic.
slow down because there's a bear that's going to cross the road. Like that's an impulse. It's like um it works like with our neuroception and all that, it's based in presence rather than in chasing safety, which is what and I could be wrong on this. This is just how I see it. I'm not an expert, but compulsion is like, I need to do this or I'm not going to be safe. I need to do this or I'm not going to be safe. I need to
Yeah.
do this or I'm not, right? Like, I need to do this to be okay. An impulse I had an impulse to go to the dog park yesterday when I was gonna go hike. And well, I don't know why. Okay, I'll go to the dog park instead. Well, there was someone there that literally text messaged me like 30 seconds before I pulled in the parking lot, that I hadn't seen in a while.
Mhm.
Where'd that come from? And this too, I think, is where this work gets down for me because I'm pretty dang spiritual. It gets down into the more I'm in my body, the more I'm in my nervous system, the more I listen to that feeling, that voice, that whatever, and I don't try to logic it away, the more aligned with soul and with source and my purpose that I become.
Yes. And it feels so good. I learned this recently. It was kind of being in a therapy container kind of thing and with a therapist and seeing myself start to trust what I've been feeling in my body, though it was not clear at the time. And when it became more clear because when I went with that, and I'm like, yeah, that feels really one. You can watch the whole system kind of relax, open up, excitement, flow, and then and then right and then the pattern comes in of I'm gonna disconnect to my body. I'm gonna go into my mind to rationalize this, to overthink this, and just watch this happen. And it's like, whoa. And since then, realizing that what I thought was my weakness, my sensitivity, it's my strength.
Yeah, it's
It
the
takes a
superpower.
while to, it is a freaking superpower.
Mhm.
And it's not to sit here and go, yeah, me and Rachel have figured out we're super
Yeah.
sensitive. I think everybody is super sensitive, you know?
I do too. I think it's possible. I think our world isn't really designed for us to be in that. Um, and it takes work to develop it,
The world's designed to take us out of it. Here's your
Yeah,
quick fix. Here's your pharmaceutical. Here's your
of course.
shitty food.
Yeah.
Uh, Numb it, distract it. That's what's fun is, and then we go like,
Yeah.
feels gross, man.
Yeah.
But what a gift that is. And it's really interesting how we shame that and make that weakness.
Oh, yeah. Like recovering from an addiction, you
Or
mean?
or
Or
being a man and
being sensitive.
being sensitive. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, same thing.
Both.
Addiction, same
Yeah.
thing for sure. Like the one that you said that was so good was I'm really good at accumulating money. I'm a billionaire. It's like, oh man, we want that. And then I
Yeah.
was thinking about that. I'm like, I haven't really thought about that one as much. I'm I see of like a hustler, a serial entrepreneurial person, a someone that can't quit learning.
Mm.
It's like I'm
Mm.
I'm I'm not satisfied. I can't be cool with here. Maybe what's wrong with pausing right here for a minute?
Yeah. What would that be like if you just were here? If you weren't constantly growing?
That's what being is. That's the B
I
part.
know. Hey, you know what? You know what that keeps reminding me of?
uh,
Just walk.
just
Just walk from SPT from our last intensive
oh yeah.
and the passing through. And we're like goofing off and like, we're at a festival. And then Irene's like, just walk. And I had this aha moment of like, it was like my face melted off. Like,
Yeah, where you're
just
performing and
walk.
pleasing, and it's like, man, can I just be cool wearing I don't know, a scowl, but can I just be cool being neutral and walking around? And man, that was really fucking uncomfortable.
Mm,
Yeah. And I would be yawning like crazy when I was doing that because it's like all that stuff is coming up, and some of it you're aware of it, and some of it it's not. And
Did that change for you? Because we did that for people who are like, what the heck are they talking
yeah,
about?
there you go.
Um, so for SPT level one, we had two intensives, one in the fall and another in the spring. And at the last one, we did a lot of games. We did a lot of games. We did a lot of just like walking and things with constraints. So like you can only do this or no talking, that kind of thing. Um, we did these activities like multiple times over the 6 days that we were together, 7 days. It was a while.
There's like
And
yeah, 8, 9, 8 days. I think it's 8 days.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was interesting, like I can observe in myself how I changed throughout these activities and the repetition of them and the reminders, which may have been the same words from our facilitators, but like they changed because I changed and I got to discover more. So like Mitch talking about like being uncomfortable in that, and I had uncomfortable, but then towards the end, like that last practice that we did, I had just this experience of, oh, like I'm all here. And this, we
And that's
also did this.
okay.
It, yes, and I was okay. I felt it wasn't calm. It's hard to put into words. It was like, and it was just a flash before I was back in my mind, but it was
Sure.
like, I'm all here. It reminds me of the other exercise, what do we call activity that we did with Elia, where it's like me, you, over there, everywhere,
Hmm.
right? It was like everywhere. I was here, I was out there, I was forward, back, and it was all okay. And
Yeah.
then I came back, and I experienced that too, watching the our peers. I don't know which you were in my group, I think, but there's it for those who want to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Irene posted a short video of our last SPT intensive, and it shows us doing this walking thing, passing through. It's just expansive. It was just like it was presence. So
Yeah.
it was just being.
Yeah, that connects. And excuse me. And after that, that's when I really was noticing like, wow, I am like who am I when I'm not performing? And what's it like to and I as soon as I say that I have this image of like putting down the sword and maybe it's like putting down the armor, the protective that says the identities that we pick up that make us okay with ourselves. You know,
Mhm.
I'm a health coach and I like Duke Blue Devils, and I play golf, and I'm a silly son of a bitch whenever it gets. But that silliness I found, I love that part of me, and the more I get regulated, that just is naturally who I am. And when I was uncomfortable, I would. That's how I felt. Made others or not others. Felt my had myself feel better by making other people laugh by not just being with what's here. And it was
Mhm.
so hard to see that. And it's like the gift that kind of keeps on giving with that because
Mhm.
I think we're always learning. I mean, that's what this work is. It's just an unwinding, peeling back the layers of, and it's in the beginning. At first, it's like, whoa, what is that? That's not me. That's not me. Like, oh, yeah, that's me.
Uh-huh.
Not long after that, I had this dream. And I've been kind of analyzing my dreams a little bit. And it was this really cool dream where it was I was at my childhood home, or I think it was my grandmother's house or something like that, and there were these people outside, and I'm going to find like my shotgun because I'm going to go like scare them away or something, and the bullets wouldn't work.
Mm.
I'm obviously like to hunt here, and so I'm trying to find the bullets. Bullets wouldn't work. Gun wouldn't work. I'm like, what in the world? So I go out there like just with whatever I've got, gonna be scary, and I'm yelling at these parts. They're all sitting around a fire, I say parts and kind of give it away. But I'm yelling and screaming at them, like, what are y'all doing here? And they're just looking at me like, just like they're being. And if I think about it, they're just, and I'm going crazy. And eventually I go, and it's cold outside and they're around a fire. And I go like, hey, you want to come check out my sauna? I got a sauna inside. It's warm. Like, you want to come inside? And they're like, yeah. Oh, before that too, you're like this. Here comes child consciousness. It was like, you're being mean.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh wow. So when I analyzed that, I was able to see that. And it's as I'm welcoming these parts of me that I had pushed away. And I said, you don't belong. And that invitation to come inside, and they all kind of sparked up whenever I said, come inside, check out the sauna. You'll love this. And we like the sauna. And they were,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the end of the dream. I say we
Oh,
like the sauna because we did a bunch of sauna together when we were at SPT.
we did Mitch in his Viking hat.
Yeah.
But I wanna that's a beautiful dream, first of all. It's so clear, and I got chills when you invited the parts into the sauna, and it I think two things I want to say about that is the importance of our dreams and how it we're processing through them. Like I dreamed so much more during SPT
Oh,
in our
really?
intensives, yes, and after. I also have been dreaming more lately doing the work right now that I'm doing with my therapist. So dreams are really important. Some people just like, oh, that dream, whatever. But I think the more we pay attention to them, too, the more we can consciously integrate those messages.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
then, and
I
then,
was just going to throw in there. I think what's going on in the dream is we're like processing the things that feel like too much in waking life.
yeah, yeah,
But you were
yeah, I
saying,
see
I didn't
that.
mean to interrupt you.
Um, well, hey guys, want to come see my sauna? That's so the playful Mitch, and you highlighted that part that's like, you employ that tactic when you're uncomfortable, but it's also like really just a natural thing of who you are. And when you're in more of that relaxed state, you have more access to that because
Yes.
play comes from a ventral vagal state. Like real play comes from there's an impulse, there's no point, but then you can also deploy play in a I'm going to say manipulative, even though it's not like
Yes.
consciously manipulative, but it is because you're trying to, right, like employ play to cheer other people up. But in that cheering other people up, it's actually achieving you being like, oh, yeah, I belong and people like me.
Mhm.
Sorry if I had just kind of like
No, I
analyzed
love that. I love that.
but it's a good example of how like there's truth in the play as being part of who we are, but when we're attached to it or we're using it to maintain something from a place that isn't true,
Mhm.
it's different. And that's the same thing with our addictions, right? Are you using alcohol to numb, escape, and avoid and keep that life force down? Or like, can someone actually just engage with alcohol because they're in Italy and they're having a amazing pasta dinner and like a little glass is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I'm so glad you named that because it was difficult during that period after the second intensive of like who am I without being silly. And I was in a deep freeze for about 6 months, it felt like. And as I came out of that, the silliness came back online, and it's like I'm just you're talking about ventral vagal. I'm engaging with everyone at the checkout line. Hey, how you doing? Da, da, da. Not to before. I think the difference is like I felt so bad that if like I could not be perceived as how I was feeling, not be seen as how I was feeling, like shit, that was kind of like how I could dance around, like so that I'm not seen, maybe.
Mm,
Definitely. And now it's more of like, no, I love joking around and being silly, and
hmm
especially like there's a guy kind of when you go to the grocery store, there's like a here there's a bunch of like special needs guys that are at the grocery store, and they're my
hmm
favorite. And this guy was just chatting me up, And we were goofing off so much. He's like, "Do you like the cold?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Do you like the cold?" And he was telling me about how he went swimming in like somewhere that was super like I don't, it's not Antarctica, but something like that. And we were just cutting up and having a good time. And this girl, we're all smiling and it's fun. And I was walked away from that thinking like, what a great social engagement. What a great. I'm so glad I got to have that moment of conversation. And it wasn't to get anything out of it or to make myself feel better or make them feel better so that I can feel better. It was just like feels really good. And I think that's the being versus the doing. Doing is I'm gonna
Make something happen.
I'm gonna make something happen or I'm just this is what feels good right now.
Yeah, following your impulse, following the energy and creating more of it. And that I think is why this kind of inner work is so crucial to alleviate the pain in our world right now. Because if you're in that state and you're just with what is and you're engaging with the greeter person and you're joking around and someone else feels that energy and they're uplifted by it, it's that ripple effect that goes out versus you go in and you're angry and you're this and that and maybe that kid says something to you and you snap at them and then that gets passed along. Like energy is contagious. It's like the most contagious thing out there.
Yeah, I felt like it's like I could feel both at that time when I was having that fun conversation. I could feel the wounded part of me of how he would respond if he'd have been in that situation and been a little bit annoyed, a
Mm.
little bit like I gotta be somewhere or something like that. And it's like so cool to just drop in and notice that somebody else is having a good time and wanting to chat. And it's the
Yeah.
more we can regulate being our body, it's the more we see that and see that fun and loving and look for the good things instead of constantly scanning our environment for what's wrong and trying to fix it and catastrophizing. And I think that's a beautiful place to be because that's what's happening in the world. And we can look at what's going on and we can go, oh my God. And believe me, it's a shit show sometimes.
It's a
And
shit show.
so much beautiful shit is happening. People are waking up. I mean, I love the conversations that I'm having. They're getting more and more weird. I've had to keep all my weird stuff in for so long, and now I get to like talk about aliens and
Oh, I just
like good stuff, fun stuff.
yeah, that makes me giddy. I remember meeting you at the first SPT and be like, we talk about that? You guys talk about this stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love
By
telling.
the end of it, you're like, hey guys, guess what?
Well, and then I came in and I'm like, man, I love conspiracy theories and aliens and all these different things, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to really keep this under wraps because they are not, and that y'all loved it. And then by the time I came back the second time, I'm like, man, what is going on? I'm crying every day. Like I am full blown conspiracy theorist. Disclosure is happening anytime, and everybody's just yeah. So it's like the more it's just normalizing what I thought was weird and exploring what feels good and permission to change my mind and my opinion if I want to, and not to hold on to anything too tight, and not to take anything too damn serious.
Hmm. Yeah. And to acknowledge that, like, I love that what you highlighted about witnessing yourself in that interaction and going, oh, an old version of me would have done this, and this is how I show up now. And that ability to see and accept change without shame. And maybe there was some shame somewhere. I know I can do that, like because I can look back sometimes and go, ooh, you were really like that, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, but it's just like, oh yeah. And so if we can change, then we can acknowledge that the world can change, that other people can change, and that it's not so serious or so dire necessarily. There's a
Amen.
lot of hope in that.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to hit the wrap button.
Yeah, I
Thank you
think
so
so.
much, Rachel. Anything you want to promote? You want to say where people can find you, check you out?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram. I'm at Unraveling Rachel, and that you were saying earlier, like we unwind, and I want to be like we unravel.
What does that mean to you? What does unravel mean versus unwind?
Well, it's just the word that came to me probably 12 years ago. I had this feeling that like life was like this, like I was wearing this too tight, itchy wool sweater and everything hurt me, and I was miserable and I wanted to unravel that,
Mhm.
right? I wanted to feel more this.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that has been
This
my
looks good
journey.
on you, girl.
Thank you. So yeah, find me on Instagram at Unraveling Rachel. I'm doing a thing right now where I'm challenging myself to go live every day,
I saw that.
uh, as a practice of just being present and engaged. I am going to be offering a book study on the courage to be disliked. I was planning to do it around Valentine's Day, but just with stuff that's been going on, I think I'm looking more at March is
Yeah.
realistic. And it's an awesome book on Adlerian psychology, really gets into like some of those thought patterns and how we can build better relationships. And I look at it through a nervous system lens. So I bring some nervous system teachings into it, so some embodied way of looking at it, and also a little bit of 12-step philosophy into it. So for anyone who's interested in that, building better relationships in your life from a nervous system informed lens, that'll be coming up. And
You gonna
yeah,
break the candles out this time?
break. Oh, yeah. The first time I led this, I my power went out right before a pod that I had a pod that I was in with Mitch and our teacher Seth, and then I was leading that group, and I did it all by candlelight.
It's so dope. It was so you were freaking out about it, and then you, boom, moved right through that, and you're like, that thing. I see that thing that you're talking about. I'm centered now. My pelvis, my heart, everything's lined up, and you're like, I'm doing this shit on cover candlelight, and that's just like a dope ass move.
You know what? For the rest of we did it for 6 weeks. I did it by candlelight from then on out. It was like my signature
And
thing.
if you hadn't like, that's kind of what you were talking about earlier about going to the park, and it's like, yeah, you could have went and took the dog for a hike, but the candles were way more dope. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or you could have went for a hike, but the dog park. You know what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say. I'm just trying to
yeah. And
pull this thing
and
together.
part of the thing, I know we're wrapping up. Let me just say this. Part of the thing with that happening was like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? I am leading this thing and I'm doing it by candlelight and it's not going to look good. And really people were like, "Oh, that's badass, right? Like you figured it out." And my pod before that was really about that and just showing up. And that's really my goal right now is showing up as a whole fucking human.
Hell yeah.
And that's one more thing is I'm going to be launching my own podcast shortly here,
Oh yeah.
called The Courage to Be Human,
Nice.
where
I
we
love it.
talk
Inspired
about,
from the book.
huh?
It's kind of inspired from the book.
Inspired from the
Play on it.
book. Yeah, play on the book, and really speaking into something that I see as important right now with the rise of AI. And I scroll on Instagram and I see people, I'm like, that post was written by AI. And now I hear people speaking and I'm like, they're reading something that AI wrote and I can feel it. And I'm just like, no. I'm here to be, I got the natural hair.
Oh
I got
yeah.
the natural, yeah.
Silver
It,
Fox.
it's important to be human.
Yeah.
And that's what this work is about becoming a whole fucking human and living in alignment with our biological nature and the nature of the world. And that to me creates greater peace. So that's that's about it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been so awesome catching up with you and chatting with you. And This is the Rooted Conversations podcast. And if you're following us on YouTube, give us a like, a follow. We love comments. Rachel's information will be tagged up in the comments if you want to reach out to her, if you have a question for her. If she doesn't see it, I'll get it to her. And thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mitch. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Rachel. Bye bye.